What's going on, everybody? Cheers. Happy Wednesday, or whatever day of the week it is when you're watching or listening to this. Welcome to the With Her Two Hands podcast, where each week we celebrate the women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go round with her own two hands. I am your host, Bogey, and I am very excited about tonight's guest. Throughout the last 207 episodes of the With Her Two Hands podcast, we've had maybe 2 or 3 A&P mechanics on. Tonight we'll have our fourth. I'm very excited to hear all about her journey. She's worked in all different arenas of A&P mechanicking. For those of you who are not familiar with what that is, she's going to fill us in on all of that. But before I bring her on, I want to say a big thank you to tonight's sponsor. If you're not familiar with Apex and you are in the automotive aftermarket industry in any capacity, you are missing out. Apex is America's largest automotive aftermarket event, and it's gotten even larger this year than it's been in the past. It just keeps getting bigger. And it is seriously was a game-changing event for me to go to. I haven't missed an event since the first time I went. Literally anybody who's anybody within the automotive aftermarket is there. And if you are in the industry in any capacity, you owe it to yourself to go. There is a link in the description down below to get registered. It is not too late. You can join me in Las Vegas this November 5th through 7th. It is definitely going to be an incredible year. So hopefully I will see you there. And of course, a big thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in week after week and joining us and sharing the good word about this series so that more people get to meet these incredible women and know how many amazing women there are in the trades, kicking butt every day. Women make up less than 10% across the trades, and in some trades as low as 2%. So really by far the minority, but we are a small but mighty and growing minority. And, we don't often get our praises sung. So this series is all about shining a light on the incredible women of the trades and singing their praises a little bit, bragging on them a little bit, and spreading the good word so that hopefully in the future we don't need shows like this, that women who work in the trades are just people who work in the trades who happen to be female, and that nobody looks at us any different, and it ain't no big thing. But until that time comes, shows like this are still necessary. So thank you guys for being a part of the revolution to normalize women in the trades. And without further ado, I'm going to stop blabbing and I'm going to bring on tonight's guest because I'm really excited to meet her. And I think you guys are going to enjoy getting to know her as well. Miss Kiki, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First of all, I've got it for folks who are listening by podcast won't see this, but you've got like a big fancy podcasting microphone. Like, what's with the fancy audio setup? Are you secretly like a audio girl?
I stream on Twitch.
Oh, well, excuse me. Okay.
That's another one of my kind of keep me sane hobbies.
Interesting. Okay, we're gonna have to find out more about that because you're my first Twitch streamer that I've met, I think, or that I know that I've met. Maybe I've met others and I didn't know. That's fascinating. So you were all nervous to be on this series, and yet you stream regularly?
I think it's because we're actually talking face to face rather than just me reading people typing, because then I can kind of pretend that there's really nobody there, but I actually have to respond to somebody.
Okay, so what do you stream on Twitch? Do you mind me asking?
I play a variety of different games, and then on Fridays we do a lot of crafting, so I pour a lot of resin, crochet a lot, sculpt
Interesting.
a lot.
And you do all of that on Twitch?
Yep.
Okay. Fascinating. I need to learn more from you about this, but we'll stay focused for tonight on the A&P mechanicking, maybe a little bit of the crafts, because hey, that's still like with our two hands, right? Crochet may not make the world go round, but it's definitely a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
So introduce yourself to the fine folks at home. Who you are, where you're ish in the world, and what you do professionally.
All right. Hello, I am Kiki. I am originally from Tucson, Arizona. That's where I started my A&P career. I graduated school in about 2016 and started working in 2017. And then I ended up moving to upstate New York for about 3 years. And then now I'm in the DMV area.
Okay.
So that's the DC, Maryland, Virginia area for those like me, I didn't know what the DMV was until I got here, and people kept saying that. I was like, are we talking about like Department of
The
Motor Vehicle? I don't understand.
I know the first time
So
I heard it as well, I was the same thing. I was like,
wait a
Department of Motor
minute.
Vehicles, what? Is that a what? Fair enough. I appreciate you clarifying. Okay, so for folks who don't know what an A&P mechanic is, what is an A&P mechanic?
It is an airframe and power plant mechanic, so I can work on everything from nose to tail of any aircraft. It could whether be a fixed wing body, helicopters. I could also do drones, kind of anything that flies.
Awesome. Okay, so this is not something that you normally hear little kids in general, let alone little girls say, I want to grow up to be
Yeah.
a airplane and helicopter mechanic. How did this come to pass? How did this come to be?
Yeah, so my dad's best friend, I've always called him my uncle since before I could remember. He was in the Air Force and I was like, "Man, this is really cool." He would always bring us on base. We would see all the planes. This is really cool. In Tucson, there's Davis Monthan Air Force Base and I'd always see the A-10s flying. I was like, "I want to fly those. That's what I want to do." When I was in my freshman year of high school, I had broken my wrist, and the doctors had said, "Oh, no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just sprained. There's nothing wrong." It went for about a year hurting. Like, I couldn't do anything with it. Finally, I went to a different doctor and like, "Oh yeah, your wrist is fine. Your hand is broken."
Oh,
So I
geez.
had, yeah, magically somebody found this. So my hand was broken, and I had to get a bone graft put in, and they told me, "You're young, so you don't need physical therapy." So I couldn't do push-ups.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my uncle looked at me, and I mean, I don't have them on now, but I wear glasses. He said, "For one, your eyes are bad, and for two, you can't do push-ups, and there's really no big conflicts right now, so they're not gonna want you. The Air Force doesn't want you." It's
Mm,
like, "Well, crap, what do I wanna do now?" And I went years and years kinda not being in limbo, not knowing what I wanted. There's a woman that I played hockey with. She worked for another repair facility, and she's like, "I can get you a tour of that if you want to come and see the kind of general aviation side, so the public." I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to go and see it." So I got a whole day with her, got to tour that. I saw both sides of it, and I completely fell in love. It's like, all right, well, if I can't fly them, I'll fix them.
okay.
And now we're here.
All right. I love that. What I guess what was it that was so exciting to you about it that grabbed you? And because I think most people in general don't really like know what they want to be when they grow up, or if they think they know
Right.
when they're little, it turns out to be something totally different. I mean, heck,
Yeah.
I wanted to be a ballerina when I was a kid, and mechanicking is not a far cry from that. So, everybody's got their like weird stories, but something
Yeah.
about it grabbed you enough that you didn't want to pursue anything else.
I
Do you
think
know?
it was so different than anything I'd ever seen before. 'Cause I mean, I liked kinda hanging out with my dad in the garage. I didn't do too terribly much with him. I'd always do my oil changes, I'd change my brakes and everything. We did do a transmission change once, and I thought that was really cool, but cars weren't really my passion. So I think with airplanes being my passion, and I've always been kind of the tomboy, I like to get down and dirty, and this other girl that I looked up to a lot, she was such a kind person, and she showed me this whole world that I didn't really think of. Like, when you fly an aircraft, you never think of yeah, those actually do have to get fixed. So
Right.
once you see it with your own 2 eyes, it's something very different, and it just kinda sparked something, and I really enjoyed it.
How did you know her?
We played hockey with her, my dad and I did.
Okay. Okay. Ice hockey or roller, I have to ask.
We played roller. I play
Okay.
ice now. There's no
Okay.
roller here.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That's okay.
I guess in Arizona, it would be more roller than ice, right?
Yeah, surprisingly, in Phoenix, there's actually a ton of ice. There's more ice than roller, which is
Oh,
very
interesting.
strange. Yeah,
Very, very interesting. Okay.
but
Do you feel like it mattered? Did it make a difference one way or another that this person that you knew that introduced you to the mechanic side of airplanes and aircraft happened to be a woman?
I think it definitely did help because she had such a massive passion for it as well, and she she loved the whole world of aviation so much, and our paths kind of were the same with hockey and liking to get dirty and everything, and I think that really did add a lot to it.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so how old were you ish when this spark got lit?
I think I was 16 or 17.
Okay, so you were still a baby, really.
I was still young. Yeah.
Okay. So you knew immediately once you graduated high school you were going to pursue. Did you go straight into a program? How did you find the program? What did you do?
She actually, because my school was on the Tucson International Airport base,
Oh,
um, her work was on the other side of it. So we
okay.
kind of shared an area, and she told me she knew that there was this program, and so she got me all the information. She sent me over the link and everything. I got signed up for it. I didn't think that I had the right testing scores for it, but it ended up that I actually was okay with it. So I kind of was pushed back a couple of months for it. So I started my Associates of Applied Science degree. I went 6 months to finish my first 3 classes with that, and then I was able to start the AMP program.
Okay. Very cool. And I know nothing about A&P programs and how long they last. How long of a program is it generally?
If you want just straight AMP, it's about 18 months. If you want to do something more specialized like structures or avionics, I think it's closer to 24 months.
Oh,
So
interesting.
really not too terribly long.
No, that actually surprises me because automotive, when I did it, was 18 months just for
Yeah.
cars. And then I like in my mind, I think of airplanes, obviously. Like I think of them as being so much more complex and so much more to them and that there
Yeah.
would be a longer program, but no, huh?
No, honestly, they're very easy. All of the manuals are set up so that if you can read, if you can see a picture, you're fine. You're good to go. It gives you a very detailed picture of every single nut and bolt of what you're supposed to remove, what direction it's supposed to face. The instructions themselves are very detailed so you don't screw something up
Well, that's good.
because it is so important.
That's that feels good. Thank you. So you are able to work on everything.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite area of the plane or type of mechanicking that you like
Um,
doing on planes?
I really enjoy engines.
Okay.
I always was kind of hesitant around helicopters just because they really didn't teach us too terribly much in school. We didn't really have access to a helicopter to work on, so I was like, I don't know about them. But once I got up to New York, I completely fell in love. And then one of our main guys for the engine shop was trying to retire, so he pulled me in and he taught me to overhaul and completely remove, replace, clean everything up, completely break down an engine, put it back on, and that was by far my favorite. I
That's awesome.
love engines.
And they must be massive when we're
So
talking planes and
on
helicopters.
the 747, they are so much bigger than I ever would have imagined any sort of engine, but the helicopter ones really aren't that big.
Okay.
Take like maybe your average generator and double it. Really not huge.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So when you started out working on 747, I guess I should
Mhm.
rewind. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm excited because I want to learn all the things. But so you went to school, you learned all of the different areas of stuff. Did you go straight into working at that shop that the woman you knew was at, or what did you
No,
do after school?
actually, so I tried to go there and I was on a medication that was supposed to kill nerves.
Oh,
So they thought I was a danger to myself and others around me, and they denied me.
oh, geez,
So
that sounds serious.
it really wasn't that serious. I don't know why they had an issue with it. I was fine. I had excellent, we had to lift up to 75 pounds and carry it upstairs, and you had to have a certain amount of grip strength, and like they put us through a full physical. None of the other jobs I worked did a full physical. This job they did, and I passed everything with flying colors. But because of the one medication, they said no.
Boo.
Which that's okay. In the long run, it was okay because where I did end up working, I got to work on the 747s, and that's a very close second. So I really loved them.
Okay. So where did you wind up going that you were working on the 747s?
It was in Marina, Arizona, so it was like
Okay.
half an hour north
Okay.
of the international airport.
Okay. So you were working on like commercial
Yeah.
planes that like
Yeah.
I could go on.
We did mostly cargo, actually. It was a
Okay.
private company. It's called an MRO, so it's a repair, maintenance, and overhaul facility.
Okay.
That it's mainly private.
Okay.
There is a company called Atlas Air that they did. It's a lot of cargo that they brought it. So it's mostly that.
From the mechanic standpoint, do you find like my only kind of comparison is like on the auto mechanic side is like, you know, there's people who are diehard, like I'll only work at dealerships or I'll only work at independent shops or I want to work at a specialist shop or I want to work at a general kind of work on everything. Are there pros and cons to working for private versus working for an airline versus working for, I guess I would assume the military is a totally different ball of wax, but
Yeah. So there's really not too terribly much. I know if you go into something like the actual international airports or the regular airports, so if you get like American, United, those ones you end up kind of being on the bottom of the totem pole if you're brand new. You end up working nights, you don't get weekends off. The work is kind of boring, so I don't like airport work.
okay.
I liked military and MRO.
Okay. Interesting. Did you ever work airport? Or you just knew it
Yes.
wasn't for you? You did.
I did here.
Okay.
And it's awful. I hate it. It's so boring.
What makes it boring?
So, at least with our contract that we had, we were given a schedule of what aircraft landed at what time. And 99% of the time, it's you go, you take tire pressures, you check oil levels, and you do a walk around just to see if everything's okay, any new dents, any of that good stuff. Most of the time, we sat in a truck waiting for a plane to land. Like, I crocheted so much. I played so many games on my Switch just sitting. I took naps because we were just waiting for a plane to land until something happened. We were just kind of hanging out in a truck.
Interesting.
So we're kind of on call.
So does that mean that they don't fail all that often and we should feel nice and safe or
They really don't.
okay.
And if it is something that fails, it's really minor. Nothing. I never experienced anything too big. I did end up having to do one emergency engine failure, but that's our aircraft are so old that I'm out of a job at this point because the aircraft are so old and there are only 50 passengers that the company said we don't want to fly these anymore, so we're going to pull our contract with you guys.
Oh
and
goodness.
My guys were like, okay, so you can either quit or move to Chicago. And I didn't want to go to Chicago.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Fascinating. So we'll get to your current sitch in a little bit. So far you got out of school, you went and worked for this MRO. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay. So you worked at an MRO working on 747s. How long were you there?
I was there about a year and a half before I had to move.
Okay. And so my understanding is that women in aircraft mechanics are similar to automotive in that like 2 to 3, less than 4% for sure kind of range.
Yeah.
How did you feel like you were received and what was that experience like for you?
So when I first started, I was very nervous because in my class, for my graduating class, I was the only female. The class behind me, there was only one, and the class in front of me, there was only one.
Oh, wow. How big
So
were your classes? The graduating classes?
we started with 25, and I think we ended with 19 or 20.
Okay, so
So
relatively small classes
yeah,
to begin with, so not uncommon
yeah,
that you're the only one
right.
percentage-wise. Okay, but
When I
still
first
not
started
fun.
working, I was the only mechanic on the floor. We had
Oh,
3 hangars, and, so I ended up working for the big hangar side and then ended up going to end of life, which is, when companies are starting to crush their aircraft, starting to retire it, because the bodies, you can only send them up and down so many times before the metal kinda starts to wear down and they've
oh,
reached
interesting.
the end. So the companies will say, "Hey, we want this, 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 and this part. Can you please take it for us?" So we'll take it off and send it off to them. So I work for both sides. When I very first started working at that company on the floor, I was the only mechanic. And then there was another lady that she had worked there before, but ended up having to move. She had a really horrible situation, and then she was able to come back. So we were the only two.
Interesting.
I was very nervous because it was a lot of older guys. Aviation, it's mostly older guys that are starting to get into retirement age. So I was very nervous because I was coming in tattoos and I was the young punk. So I thought they were gonna hate me. The old guys were the ones that protected me.
Mm,
I had it was like a 40-year-old guy that was my team lead, and he had told the other female that had just come back when she first worked there, he told her to her face that women should not be in this field. Women should not touch tools. Women have no right to be there. So he kind of treated me like garbage, and I kind of ventured over to a different lead. And he ended up going and telling the owner of the company what was happening. And so the owner of the company pulled me aside and said, "I hired you because I saw value in you." So it was really fantastic that another lead had kind of taken me under his wing, and the owner of the company had expressed that he thought we should be there.
that's
When I
interesting.
had gone over to the end of life section, there was actually my team lead was a female, and there was another female that worked there, and she had been there for about 10 years. I think she was in her 40s, and she had loved it. So it was really awesome. I got to be on this team that was led by another female, and the other female was one of the longest ones there.
Oh, how cool.
So I was really good with that. And then when I went to New York, there were 3 other females that worked there, and they were all fantastic.
Wow.
So that was awesome. But then
Mm,
coming down to the DMV, I was the only one again.
okay,
But
interesting. I'm impressed that you've worked with as many as you have. That's quite
I was shocked.
a few, yeah.
Yeah.
It helps balance out the fact that you had to work briefly for somebody who thought that women shouldn't touch tools.
Oh my gosh.
It amazes me, like, how many people think that that doesn't happen anymore, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it happens all the time. Most of the time, they don't say it to your face as
Right.
brazenly as that, but it's
Right.
still 100%, there are still far too
Yeah.
many people who are like, "Women shouldn't be doing this kind of work."
Where I was called on to different teams because my hands were so small that I could reach through the
Right?
holes the guys couldn't get into. So I was like, without me, you couldn't get this job done. So
Yes.
you really think I shouldn't be here?
Yes, exactly. It's interesting that, like, the owner of the company and then some of the other team leads were super supportive. I'm finding that a lot throughout a lot of the trades is that, like, upper management or owners are, like, super supportive of it. They're
Yeah.
open to it. They're like, "We just need good talent. We really don't care. Like, we're down
Right.
for a diverse group." With like it's they're all on board for it. It's the middle management that tends to have the problem still, and unfortunately,
Yep.
they can dictate our work situation, right? And whether it's a positive experience or not. But I'm glad that you
Right.
didn't have to stay under him for all that long.
I was so glad. I only worked for him for maybe a month before the other team lead was like, "Yeah, you're not gonna talk to him anymore. Come see me." So I was
Nice.
like,
Yay for allies.
"Yes."
We need more of them, guys.
Exactly.
If more allies speak up than the few rejects, the folks that are not super supportive. Like
Right.
it just kind of gets overpowered. So we need you guys.
Yes.
Uh, okay, so what made you leave this place and go to New York? What brought you to New York?
My husband's job.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. I mean, fortunately, you have a job that can like be anywhere in the country for the
Yeah.
most part, right? Okay. So, did you have a job lined up in New York already when
I
you
did
moved
not.
there? Okay.
So when I moved, we went to a super small kind of cow town.
Okay,
The
you were not in
closest
New York
airport.
City.
No, no, I was basically in Canada.
Okay.
We were up there. The closest airport to me was like an hour and a half, and I'm from Arizona. I've never driven anything but sun and some rainstorms. So when I first got there, it was blizzards. So I told my husband, I was like, there's no way I can go and work at the airport. I don't know how to drive in the snow, let alone drive an hour and a half in the snow. So one of his buddies was in the army and was like, "Hey, there's this company here. I wonder if they could help you." And so he kind of sent me all their information and I put in a job like application, didn't hear from them for a while. And then I got an interview and it was right before COVID had hit. And so it was a phone interview. I don't know how to do interviews. I am the most awkward person on the planet. They'd ask me, "So what do you think your talents are?" I well, I'm nice. And so the guy was like, "Yeah, you are terrible, but we're gonna hire you anyway."
Your resume spoke for itself, I guess.
He's like, "You've got licenses, you've got time under your belt. That's more than most of these people." Because a lot of the guys I worked with, they were snowmobile mechanics. They didn't know how to work on helicopters.
Oh.
So I was the first new hire in like 7 years.
Oh my
So all
goodness.
of these guys had gotten all of their experience just from there. There was a handful of guys that were actually in the army that were teaching these guys, but they were all snowmobile, all car, tractor mechanics. So nobody
Fascinating.
knew any of that.
So are they not I mean, I assumed that to work on aircraft and anything that flies in the sky that you like had to be licensed. Is that not
No,
true?
you either need your license or you need to shadow somebody who and then you would go and test for your license. I think you have to shadow for
Okay.
2 years and then you can test for your license, or you can go and you can work on it, but you have to have somebody with a license sign off for you.
Ah,
So, as long
okay,
as
so
they
that's the
trust you,
loophole.
as long as you do good work and they're watching you and they're kind of vouching for you, you can work on it.
Okay. So in theory, you need a license or to be with somebody who has a license, but
Yes.
there's a loophole there. Okay,
Yep.
interesting. I did not know that. Is that just in helicopters or is that
Nope.
airplanes too?
That's all of it.
Okay, that scares me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Most of the airlines don't hire people that don't have licenses, so you're safe
Okay.
there.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. I more and more feel like we shouldn't have car mechanics that don't have a license. Like, you need a license to drive a car. I feel like, and
Right.
that takes way less skill, quite
Right.
frankly, than fixing a car. I feel like you should kind of have a license. That's just my humble opinion. Super
You
not
would
popular
think.
opinion, but yeah, definitely things flying in the sky. I think you should have to have a license for. Okay,
Would be
interesting.
smart, but
So, okay, so you're walking into this job and it's all snowmobile mechanics, and here you are, this young girl
yep.
who went through formal training and has all of this experience. How'd they feel about that? And what was that situation like for you?
Honestly, I didn't have any issues with those guys. They were
Nice.
all super down to earth. They were very kind. There was only one guy. He was one of the inspectors that was super homophobic, super transphobic. So I just,
Mm.
whenever he entered the room, I left. Didn't deal with him. He wasn't my inspector. But I was on a team with there were three Toms. It was Tom, Tommy, and then the other guy's last name. And they are the nicest people. We text each other back and forth even now every now
That's
and then. If I see a Blackhawk in the sky, I'll text them, "I miss you guys." And it
Aw,
really took me under their wing and they took care of me. And if anything was going on, they made sure it stopped. So it
that's
was really nice.
That is fantastic. I love it. I love when the guys that you work with become like your older brothers and family,
Yeah.
and that's the way it can be. That's the way it should be.
Yes. That's the way it should be. The one guy I still call my work dad.
Mm.
He lived like 30 seconds down the road from me, so we picked him up to go. My husband and I picked him up to go to our Christmas party, and
Aw.
we hung out with them for. We closed the bar down.
That's awesome. So
That was fun.
Blackhawks. I feel like
Yes.
Blackhawks have this like mythic, like it just conjures up very, very specific imagery. What was it like working on them?
Oh my gosh, it was great. Unfortunately, for most of my time there, I got it. So they're broken up into areas. So the
Okay.
cabin is area 1, where the other guys would be is area 2, and then you've got 3, 4, and 5. So 5 would be your engines. I was stuck in area 1 and 2 most of the time because I was new. Everybody else kind of got what they wanted. But I could get my stuff done pretty quick, so I could go and help with all the stuff up top or the back. So I did get my share of different areas. When I had to go to a different hangar for a while just because they desperately needed help over there, and I could kind of do what I wanted there. So I did help the one guy with the top stuff. So it's basically everything on top. You've got your engines, all of your hydraulics, and all that stuff. So I got to help him with that. And I really loved it.
Do
So
people tend to get kind of pigeonholed into specific areas throughout their career in A&P?
um yes and no. If you have avionics training, that's all of the electronics, all of the boxes and everything. You do that's what you do. You don't get to touch anything else. It's that. And then if you're a structures mechanic, all you do is sheet metal and riveting. You don't get to
Oh,
do the other stuff. I don't know if it was just our company or if it is just military helicopter work that you get your own area, and then it's kind of totem pole. What do you like? Are you more experienced in this? And then you get that section kind of until the end of time. So
oh, interesting. Okay.
it's kind of they kind of put people more experienced in different spots, and then if you don't like that spot and you're above somebody, they switch you, and
Okay.
that's okay.
Fair enough. That makes sense. All right. Um, okay. So then husband's job moved you again, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that brought you to the Department of Motor Vehicles,
Yes.
to the DMV area.
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to find a job there?
Yes. I was
Okay.
actually able to find a job very quick here. We think they were a little desperate for people because they offered me a job before we were even done with the interview.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, "Oh God, I have to go home and ask my husband if he thinks this is a good idea. I don't know. Is the pay rate for here good? I don't know." So I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Take all the time you need." And they're holding the doors open, kind of
Oh,
trying to butter
wow.
me up. I was like, "Okay, wait a second."
I feel like everybody is somewhat in the trades, particularly like they're really desperate for people who are
Yeah,
skilled and have the qualifications and know their stuff. So that almost doesn't surprise me. Do you
right.
feel like you're seeing more of that in the job market now?
Yeah, just because most of the guys that are mechanics, they're all retirement age now. And
Mhm.
the generation behind them and before me, they were kind of anti-trade. So all of these guys are trying to retire and they've got nobody left to help. So
Yeah.
we are finally starting to build up. A lot of the people I worked with were younger, and a lot of them were actually from Ethiopia that I worked with. So
Interesting.
it was
Why
very different.
Ethiopia? That I did not expect that. Do you
I don't
know?
know. I know they had an excellent program back there, and
Okay.
so all of these guys kind of in the middle of us, they're, they came back here. Their families are all still back home. I think
Oh,
only a couple
wow.
of them, their wives were here. So
Interesting.
they all came here just because they had a great skill set and they had to go somewhere.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. I learned so much doing this
Yeah.
podcast. This this is so much fun. How
I
fascinating.
think it was like 90% of them were from Ethiopia. There was one guy from Nigeria, and only a small handful were from here.
Interesting.
Very strange.
I mean, it's smart, right?
Right.
There what you're talking about, this like gap is definitely affecting all of the trades where there's, the older generation, and then there was this huge gap. You don't have anybody in those ages in between.
Right.
And then there's, because my generation, I'm in my mid 40s, you're younger than me. But so my generation, there isn't a lot of folks or as many folks in the trades because it was such a strong push. Go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. That's the only path to success, right? And then now things are starting to shift, thankfully. But so you wind up with like
Yes.
60-year-olds and 20-year-olds and like nothing in between. And so it's interesting that they're filling in that gap. It makes sense that
Yeah.
they have to fill in that gap somehow. That's very interesting. I
I think
did not
when I
know.
was in New York, I think I was there like 25-ish, and I was by far the youngest one there. I think the next youngest guy, he was like, "I'm so thankful you are here." He was 36 at the time. "I'm so thankful you're here because I was the baby. Now it's you."
It's it's so crazy. I mean, people have no idea like how dramatic of an issue this is. Like,
Exactly.
it's such a big deal, and I feel like I can't emphasize or say it enough. Like, all of the folks that are in these trades are getting ready to retire. And there's
Yeah.
nobody to fill in their spots,
Yep.
like, very, very few people, which is amazing for women because it means it's gonna create a ton of opportunity for women who want to get into this because suddenly management is like, "We don't care.
Yeah, please. We just need
Just
hands.
yeah, just be here, be talented, know what you're doing, give a damn," right?
Yep.
But it's terrifying when you think about these are the things that make our world go round, literally.
Yeah. And especially with COVID was a very dramatic thing, especially for the aviation trade. So many people got laid off. I know in New York, we had
Mm,
switched companies 2 or 3 times. To just the contractor had switched buyers a couple
okay.
of times, but they kept all of us. It was just the name changed.
Ah.
So I got laid off twice just with the name change, but I was only a month. They brought me right back. But then COVID hit and they laid half of us off. And they're like, "We don't know if we're going to get to bring you back." So we did end up getting to go back, but then coming down here, all of the older guys that were working for United and American, all of these big names, they didn't want to come back. They
Mm.
said, we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to risk our health." So now there's this huge, massive hole, and all of these people are working overtime. And it's been absolutely
Wow.
bonkers.
Interesting. I didn't even think about the COVID effect, but of course, like, because not only were people not flying, but we weren't, I mean, the commercial stuff, the non like,
Yeah.
the more industrial type of stuff. Like, I guess people were ordering more things, so there was still
Yeah.
that element of it, but you weren't necessarily getting the air travel.
Exactly.
So, interesting. And then, yeah, I can imagine if you were close to retirement age, you get laid off due to COVID, and like, "Well,
Not
I
gonna go
guess I'm
back.
I guess I'm done." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, high demand is what you're saying. So, anybody who wants to
Very
go into
high.
A&P, there's lots of
There's
opportunity
holes.
right now. Holes that need filled
Yes,
now, and they will roll out the red carpet for you. Okay, interesting.
exactly.
So but you are not working currently.
I'm not.
Are we comfortable talking about that and
Yeah.
why? What's
Yeah,
going on? Because obviously
absolutely.
you're in high demand. Why aren't you
Very high demand.
working? They're
So
begging you
I
to
have
come back.
had Lyme disease since as long as I can remember.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I have gone through so many different things. I've seen every type of doctor. And then being in Arizona, nobody knows what Lyme disease is. So middle school, I had chronic bronchitis, couldn't figure out what the issue with that was. And then in 2009, I fell asleep on the docks at the lake and I woke up with a headache that has not gone away. ever.
Oh gosh.
24/7, and then I get migraines on top of that. So they were trying to figure out what that was. They didn't know what that was. They put me on every medication under the sun. Nothing was doing anything. And then finally, I think my husband's cousin had posted this big article about Lyme disease. He's like, this sure sounds like you.
Mm.
So I went and I talked to a specialist there, and they didn't really have the right blood tests down there. So she's like, well, your symptoms match it. So we're going to try to treat it holistically. And I've had it for so long, the holistic round did not do anything.
Mm.
So that was kind of one of the big reasons why he took his job in New York, was because there is such a big demand for doctors there. And I did get diagnosed there. She did find that it's not technically Lyme disease. It is a very close sister called tick-borne relapsing fever. They both are the Borrelia bacterias, so
Okay.
it's treated kind of the same.
Okay.
And I was on some pretty heavy stuff there. I went on short-term disability there. I had a PICC line, so it was a very soft tube that goes in through your arm into your heart, so I could do
Oh my
IV
gosh.
antibiotics every day. That didn't work. So another reason we came down here was there was a very good doctor in Maryland. So we talked to her. I've started very heavy medications that were making me very dizzy, and my lead was like, "Yeah, it's probably time to just relax." So I took some time off, and while I was trying to heal, going through all of these big assortments, I was on different medications pretty much every 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And during the period of me being off with them, the company shut down.
Oh
So
geez. Oh
and
geez.
now she only has one more option for me here. So I have an appointment with her tomorrow, and we'll see what she says about that then. And then if she can't
Oh.
figure it out, I don't know what to next.
Oh my goodness.
It's been a
Wow.
whirlwind.
Yeah. Holy Jesus. Is it so you don't even know like if this is ever curable. This might be a life
It might
situation.
be. So just got to kind of
Oh wow.
figure out what to do. We're kind of trying to manage the symptoms rather than the disease now.
Yeah.
So we're trying.
Incredible. Who knew? I guess I didn't realize that Lyme disease was as insane as that. Like I know people who've had kind of lifetime symptoms from getting Lyme disease, but they've been much more mild than that.
Yeah.
Um, that's intense.
And we're now finding out it is in all 50 states. It's in Mexico, Canada, all over the world basically. I don't think there's a single continent that doesn't have it at this point.
Mm,
So if you say, "Oh, I'm from Arizona, I can't get Lyme. It's from this tick only," that's not true.
interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. I am so sorry to hear that that's
Oh,
been what you've been dealing with,
okay.
and that it means that you're not able to do this thing that you love so much. How that must be hard. Like, how is that? How is that?
I miss it every day, but I know because even in New York when I was working the engine shop, I found a stool off in the corner that I'd pull up to my little table and I'd sit on that, and even that would kill my back. So I'm like, man, do I go back to work and just hurt all day every day,
Mm,
or do I try to figure out if there is something that could help me?
yeah.
So we're trying to kind of balance that right now, but I think about it all the time. I dream about it all the time.
Mm.
So that's okay. But
Well,
every
it's
time I go
probably
home, like the last time we went back home to visit my parents, I told my dad, it's like, all right, teach me how to rebuild carburetors because I'm bored.
ma-
So just kind of
maker's gonna
finding it.
make, right? We got to
Yeah,
find some way to do that, and
gotta
and
do
you're
something.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad you're taking the time to take care of your health and investing in that because you're your lead at your most recent job said it is time to like just take care of you and focus on that.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the future you'll be able to at least manage the symptoms enough that you can find some aspect of the job that you can go back to and that is sustainable. And in the meantime, how are you staying sane? You've alluded to some of the things that you're
Yep.
doing while trying to get healthy and keep those hands occupied.
Yep.
So what are the things that you do?
I stream Monday through Friday on Twitch. I play different games Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays I crochet, pour different things of resin, do some little sculpt just to kind of have fun. Because that is something that I've always kind of liked doing. My grandma taught me the super very basics when I was little. And then when we first moved to New York, my sister found out she was pregnant. And I was like, well, I'm not working right now. So I want to make my future niece or nephew a toy. So I retaught myself how to crochet and I
Awesome.
completely fell in love with it and have been completely obsessed with it ever since. I ended up starting my own small crafting business,
Okay.
which I did just open up an Etsy store, which I was always kind of scared of, but I ended up doing that. And then
Awesome.
I'm doing a craft fair in December. So I've been taking a lot of Mondays off just to make stuff for the craft fair. But
That's super awesome. And you've
I've been
got some of
trying.
your crochet creatures behind you, don't you?
I do.
Those
Those
of
just
you
kind
who
of
are
sit there.
those of you who are listening and not watching, you're missing out because she's got these really cool critters that she has crocheted. I too am an avid crocheter, as some of you may know. Most of you probably do not. I find it's a similar sense of satisfaction
Hmm.
as building working on cars because in a lot of people will be like you're a mechanic and you crochet, those two things don't go together, but I feel like they go together perfectly. Like it makes
Yeah,
sense in my mind, like it is all about building and making and fixing.
exactly.
It's
And
all
keeping the fingers moving. Both hands
yeah,
are doing something. It's different movements. And
yeah,
it goes together.
absolutely. Okay, so you're streaming all of this, you're streaming crocheting.
Yep,
I feel like that's a very different audience, people who wanna watch
it
gamers and
is.
people who wanna watch crocheters.
It's very different. I have regulars just for the games, and then I have regulars just for the crafting days. So
I so applaud your ability to and willingness to like just be all of these different sides of you and be so transparent about it. I feel like particularly my generation and older, there was kind of this like you have to fit into this box and do these things. And I for the longest time didn't admit to the fact that I had an inner old lady who loved to crochet because it like wasn't part I didn't feel like I was supposed to, right? And so
yep,
I think it's really cool to see your generation and younger kind
yeah,
of saying these are all of the disparate things that I love and they can all coexist and
yeah.
it just is what it is.
And I think it kind of helps calm you down as well. Like my neighbor, she has a 14-year-old girl with autism, and she's like she has this horrible anxiety, and I
Mm.
think some sort of craft that she can do with her hands would be good. So can you teach her to crochet? And I said absolutely. And so she texts me every once in a while, oh, she did this today, look what she made, thank you so much, it's really helped her. So it's really good emotionally as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it is. I mean, I think crafting is something that everybody should do
Oh yeah.
in some form or another. But I find crochet particularly like it, especially my brain. I'm super ADHD baby. I am like all over the place all the time, can never shut my brain off. But
Yep.
with crocheting, you're counting stitches. So it kind of
Yep.
forces your brain to not be over processing 9 million other things because all you're doing is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over and over and over again, right?
And then my husband tries to talk to me to start counting louder. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now what do you want?
Right? Like I have to focus and this is how I shut my brain off. So this is my me
Exactly.
time.
Don't get me out of the zone. I'm in.
I love it. Amazing. So, okay, so we don't know yet if you're gonna be able to go back into doing airplane stuff yet. Um, do you think we might find you in the car world in the future? Like you teased about
I
maybe.
mean, maybe. I don't so I'm gonna be perfectly honest here. I
Uh-oh.
don't understand cars that well. Jet engines, absolutely. I get it, but cars, it's a different world. Like
Well,
if
I mean, the feeling is mutual. I don't understand airplanes. If you put
exactly.
me in a hangar, like, if you told me take that part off, I could, but if you asked me what that part was, I'd have no idea, right? So
Yep.
I think it's the same.
So I've definitely been trying to understand more.
Okay.
I've I like getting dirty. I like to learn things. I like mechanical things. So I mean, if need be, I'd
Okay.
definitely be interested.
Would you ever consider teaching?
I'm a very bad teacher.
I have a hard time believing that. I think you're probably better than you think you are. You she thinks she's nervous and awkward. She's not nervous and awkward. Look at her. She's doing amazing on this. So I have a feeling that you probably undersell and underestimate yourself on the regular.
I definitely have severe social anxiety, but
Okay.
I've been using Twitch as kind of breakthrough. I've been trying to kind of bring myself to be less awkward. I'm trying to be better with talking to people. I'm trying to be better.
Well,
I'm getting there.
I would never know that you had any issues because you're fantastic. This has been a great conversation. I've truly enjoyed this.
Me
Um,
too.
I love it. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about like what your advice for other people is. We've kind of talked about how there's this gap, there's opportunity, particularly for women. Um, we've heard your path and how you got in and got the experience that you got, but is that the path that you recommend for people? What's your advice for other young folks wanting to get into aircraft?
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to have another degree on top of that. AMP school is very easy. I went through my local community college. It was very cheap. Um, you kind of go, you have your one class throughout your entire thing. So you're with the same people the whole time. You know all of the teachers, that there's only a small handful, at least with the one I'm in now. It was like 6 or 7 teachers throughout the whole thing. You get to know everybody very well. They make sure you understand things. And you have to understand that AMP school isn't teaching you how to work on airplanes, it's teaching you how to learn.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
yes. And so once you get into the real world, you kind of take the things that you've learned and then you can teach yourself more and more and more. And you never will know everything. You will always learn something every time you go to work. Like, I don't care if you've been in the industry for 20 years, you will always learn something. And I think it's a very good opportunity. If you like it, if you think it's a good idea, if it's something you're interested in, go and check it out. Go get a tour of a college or of a school or something. I went and I got my associates just because I had missed the first 6 months, and I knew that if I had another degree on top of that, it would just be kind of like another dollar in the stack.
Yeah.
So the more you make yourself worth, the easier it's going to be. But right now, it's easy. If you got a good head on your shoulders, if you want to be there, if you want to learn, and you're not a terrible person, you're going to get the job 99% of the time.
I love it. If you're willing to learn and you're not a terrible person, that's where
Yes.
we're at. But it's true. I mean, I feel like, especially these
Yeah.
days where we have so few people, that like more and more companies are hiring for your personality and your
Yeah.
willingness to learn than anything else. I'm gonna put you on blast a little bit here. We've got somebody in the audience saying that you are a great teacher because you taught her how to crochet.
She's one of my best friends. Hi, Liz.
I love it. And I fully believe her. I think you probably are a phenomenal teacher.
Well, I definitely try.
All right. Great advice. I think that's fantastic. We've got only a few minutes left because this hour always goes so much faster than I think it's going
Oh my
to.
gosh. I
I
can't believe it's
know.
the end.
It's been an hour already. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so aside from being able to go back in time and not get Lyme's disease, if you had the opportunity to go back and talk to little baby Kiki, what are your words of advice to her as a young girl?
Um, you're gonna go off to do things you've never imagined. You're gonna see things that you've never imagined, see places you've never imagined. You're gonna get this set of skills that you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere in the world and you can do anything. Like, don't stop believing.
I love it. Cue the
My
song.
husband is singing this song.
I couldn't help myself either. That's amazing. Right as I said, cue the song, he starts singing. I love it. Amazing. All right, great minds think alike, and ours too. That's fantastic. You have been so much fun to chat with.
Thank you so
This
much.
has been so great. I'm so glad that you said yes and agreed to
Oh,
doing this despite
absolutely.
your nerves. And
When my dad
I'm
texted
gonna.
me, it was like, "She wants to meet with you. I met her on Sunday. Do you want to talk to her?" I was like, "She wants to talk to me. Oh God." Because I've definitely watched him. I've watched you guys on
Oh,
TV with him before. So I was like,
no.
I'm gonna talk to a TV star. It's gonna
Eh.
be great.
And now you can tell, like, I'm just a normal person, just like everybody
Yep,
else, right? I,
exactly.
I crochet. I put my pants
Yeah.
on one leg at a time. You
We
know.
do old lady stuff together.
Yeah,
Go to bed at a reasonable time. Normal
totally.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, who knew? After all that, you and I are going to wind up exchanging crochet patterns after this. It's
Ooh, yes,
we got new crochet buddies.
exactly.
All right. So, with that, I thank you so very much for
Oh
hanging
no,
out with
thank
me
you.
this hour.
It's
This was
been an honor.
fantastic. We're going to definitely connect more offline.
Yes,
And thank you
please.
for sharing your story with
Of
everybody.
course. And
And,
if
folks,
anybody has other questions about the aviation world, absolutely you can send them my way. I'll answer any questions they
awesome.
have.
Awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. Folks, take her up on that opportunity. I mean, when I was a
Yes.
kid, I didn't even know that that was a thing, right? Like, it just,
Right. You don't think about it.
I was never exposed to it, never would have known.
Nope.
And little known fact, or maybe very known fact, I don't know. I didn't know it. Airplane mechanics and helicopter mechanics make a whole lot more than car mechanics. And they are in very high demand right now. Not that I should
Yes.
be encouraging people to, not be auto mechanics, because I should be. I am all about that, but
Both. Why
uh,
not both?
yeah, there you go. Absolutely. All right. Folks at home, thank you guys also so much for hanging out and spending part of your week with us. I hope you enjoyed meeting Kiki as much as I did. I will make sure her link and information is down below so that you can go check her out. Maybe follow her on Twitch, watch her crochet and game, and keep up with her on her journey and see where the rest of her career path leads her, because who knows where it's going to go. But thank you guys for spending part of your week with us. Make sure that you hit like, hit subscribe, leave comments down below. Make sure the algorithm knows that they should show this to more people so that more people get to meet incredible women like Kiki who are kicking butt in the trades every day. The proud minority, but we are growing. We are a mighty minority. We just need the word to get out and need more women to see that there's great job opportunities in the trades. So thank you guys for being a part of that. Real quickly, again, thank you to our sponsor, Apex. Excuse me, as I lose my voice. If you're not familiar with Apex, there's a link down below. Go check them out. If you're in the automotive aftermarket, it's an absolute must. I'm going to be in Las Vegas this November for it, and you can join me there. There is a link to register. It's a really awesome event, and you definitely don't want to miss out on it. And with that, make sure you guys come back next Wednesday to meet another incredible tradeswoman. And every Monday, we have an archive episode. You get 2 times a week. You get to watch the With Her Two Hands podcast. And until then, be good to yourselves. Be good to one another, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.